All right, Mike, but that's good enough for me.com with Ed, Bad Dad. We are here again to join you in the Almost Punk Enough podcast. How are you, Ed?
I'm fantastic, Mike. How are you?
I missed you. I'm good, but
I
I missed
missed
you.
you.
I was talking to Jeff. So, for those super fans of the site out there that have tried to email us at that's good enough for me.com, we've been having a lot of issues with emails, and we found out that it was whoever owned the email address, Mike Elfers at that's good enough for me.com, was overrun with spam and possibly Sennheiser related scams. I don't know. Um, but I took one for the team. I think I exonerated my email address today. So,
Okay.
uh, but as Jeff was reaming me for destroying his email server, a la Hillary classic politic days. I thought about you and I thought about the podcast. And I said, God damn, it's been a long time. Um, but this is a very
Well, so
special
I didn't get
episode.
to ream you out. I didn't get a chance to ream you out, but you screwed me over a little bit as well.
Let's
Because
hear it.
I was supposed to have a pass. I brought my wife and daughter to see Coheed and Taking Back Sunday last Friday night, and I was supposed to have a photo pass there for me when I got there. But I got there and the will call didn't have my name on the list, and the only contact I had was an email through our server that stopped sending about an hour before I got to the venue. So I kept sending emails and they just kept getting bounced back, and there was no way for me to reach anyone. So I missed out on the photo pass. Thanks for ruining my life. Now I'll never get to take pictures of Coheed, um, which would have come out blurry and shitty anyway. But that doesn't matter. It was just the fact that I could have said that I was standing up close,
But more importantly, you
and
could have
now I
gotten
can't.
couldn't you could have gotten photos with Fred from Taking Back Sunday wearing his special hat that he wears now.
Well, so yeah, we have pictures with Fred though. He was at a show with my daughter, so her and him have a few pictures together with him wearing his Heading East Records hat.
I love the hat. And I am excited about Fred and Taking Back Sunday. I will say that. I never watched like horrifying cell phone footage of bands performing on YouTube, but that's all we're getting right now of TBS with Fred. So I have watched quite a bit of it actually just to hear what is probably supposed to be 2020 surgery live through somebody's cell phone microphone. Um, but I'm really happy for all the parties involved. It looks like this has been like a really nice little um, reunion and rekindling of relationships. So,
Yeah, so I think that Fred is probably the nicest person in rock and roll. Every experience I've had with him has always been just utterly charming. He's just a really delightful human being to be around. Uh, but John Nolan is my favorite part of Taking Back Sunday, so it is a shame to see him out of the loop for this tour. Obviously, he's going through some health issues, and hopefully he's on his way to recovery, and then they could just tour with three guitarists,
mhm,
and that would be fine with me.
I think that's what they were kind of hinting at. And that's obviously a wonderful goal. I know that Fred is good enough at guitar that he could just kind of chameleon himself in and fill the gaps when
Hmm.
needed. There's a lot of reasons that it would be great. And, if Matt Skiba's listening, maybe tour with Blink some more. I think they could use a second guitar player. But we don't need to talk about these bands that need all of these extra pieces of technology to sound great because today we're talking about a band that has always sounded great, and that is Bayside.
Killer segue, sir. Well
Hey,
done.
thank you. It's been a while. I didn't know if I still had it. But
I thought
Bayside,
you were going to loop in the Long Island link, but that was much better.
Bayside for me, um, as a musician especially, they record live. They recorded that at Click. They just sit in a room and fucking bang it out, and they perform perfectly. And today we have an amazing task. If you want to tell us all about it,
Yeah, so today we're going to put together. They're currently out on their Errors tour, which is celebrating the last 25 years. So they're doing their first four albums on night one, and then their final five albums on night two, or their most recent five albums. Final sounds pretty final and not good because we want them to keep making music. But they're splitting it up that way, and they're putting together their set list for it, and we figured it would be a fun little experiment to put together what our dream playlist would be for, or set list would be for the current tour.
And this is nice because it's broken up over 2 nights, right? So we can kind of get some deep cuts in there without being too selfish, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but first, I guess we should talk a little bit about our introduction to Bayside in general. And I'll go first because mine's probably more posery. But um, have you ever had a band where your friends were so annoying about how much they liked something? Like, this could be a movie or a show or something too. But you like specifically boycotted something because everyone around you just couldn't stop jacking off about it, and you were like just didn't even want to try it. That's what Bayside was for
Yeah.
me.
Okay. So that was pretty much every Anthony Green project for me for a very long time. I felt like he was too smart and I wasn't able to keep up with whatever it is that he was going on about. But I've recently come around on everything that he's done over the last few years and really kind of rekindled a missed opportunity with him.
So for me, it was always, yeah. Don't those guys kind of sound like Alkaline Trio? Like they have the singer that kind of sounds like Matt Skiba, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with them, but I don't care. And it wasn't until uh God, it probably wasn't until The Walking Wounded that I really was like, holy shit. Okay, so technically, like technical wise, this band has deep metal roots and can play just about everything. And I didn't realize that. It makes me appreciate how a band like Alkaline Trio can uh, really honor the three pieces as well, because this band does four pieces so great.
Yeah. So my first time ever hearing about Bayside, they did a split with another band called Name Taken, and I didn't like Name Taken, so I didn't waste my time with it, other than knowing that they were called Bayside and thinking that it was dumb for a band to rip off Saved by the Bell and not do the Zack Attack. Um,
Or Hot Sunday.
but then, what's that?
Hot Sunday is the band that
Oh, Hot Sunday.
the
Yeah,
ladies all start. But anyway,
that was a good one as well. Um, but they ended up being on Victory, obviously, and Victory had a tendency to inundate the world with samplers of three or four songs at a time. And I think that I had every single one that they put out between 1999 and 2004. So I was introduced to them with Masterpiece was on one of those samplers, and I really got into it. So I figured I should check out the record. And I really enjoyed the first record, but it was just something that I would put on as a backup thing. And then the second album came out, and that one it hit so hard for me, and it still stands as one of my favorite records ever. Over and 20 years later, it's still something that's in constant rotation for me.
now I also remember significantly, I was on tour in rural Missouri in the middle of a blizzard when they got in that van accident very early on,
Okay.
where they lost their drummer. And
Yep.
that was a horrifying day for every independent musician that like travels in a shitty van through ice and snow and all the other elements. Uh, so I remember reading about that probably on MySpace. And again, we had to get in the van a couple hours after I had read that news and do some pretty gnarly driving around Arkansas or Missouri or something. And it was icy. And I thought, wow, this is, why are we doing this? Um, but I think that's one of the reasons that the band decided to stick together. And after doing so, just continued to take each album up another level. Uh, tech with their technical skills, they just keep getting more talented every time they come up with another record. There's more arrangement, there's killer riffs, there's more bizarre singing and playing at the same time. These
Yeah,
are all
there's
very,
definitely a lot of like cabaret that they've added over the last record. There was a very like Broadway theatrical feel to it. The last few actually.
yeah, absolutely. And anyways, what a good fucking band. So today we're going to be going over our dream set lists for them. Uh, and I guess we're going to start now with night one after after this little break so that we can play an ad that has to play. All right, we're back and ready to go over this set list. So here we go. Ed made the original piece here, and I'm not going to tear it to pieces by any means because these are all good choices, but I'm going to let you kind of run with this, and then I'm just going to tell you which songs you missed because you're a fucking asshole. So let's go. Night one.
That's fair. Night one. So night one, they're only going to be covering Sirens and Condolences, the self-titled Walking Wounded, and Shudder. So I thought that for that, the best opening, it was, you need to start things off with something a little bit fast and has some urgency to it and kind of gets the room going right off the bat. So I thought the Walking Wounded was a good choice there. Like I said, you want the crowd to kind of ignite the room, and I think that that's the best song out of those four records to pull that off. And I think that bleeds in really, really well to Masterpiece off of Sirens and Condolences. It's got the classic sing along about the every bottle's in the bar turned upside down, and it helps to keep the adrenaline high, gets the crowd kind of locked in, having something early. Everybody likes to have that, whether it's a deep cut or not, isn't really a fair conversation, but it's an early piece. It's not one of the new ones. People like to see something off of the first full length. And then I have them going back to The Walking Wounded with They're Not Horses, They're Unicorns. It's just it's quirky and catchy, and I think it does a lot to kind of keep the momentum up.
And I think to do
So,
to do a track one from Walking Wounded, and then moving from a song from another record, and then immediately going to track two from Walking Wounded, that's bold. I like it a lot.
So at this point, I'm not a fucking asshole. We're still good to keep going.
We're good. We're good.
All right, beautiful.
So
so after that, I threw in Rochambeau. I think it's every set kind of needs its curveballs, and I think that this is a good first one. It's got a bunch of tempo changes to keep everybody kind of on edge, and it gives a bit of unpredictability. So it's kind of a little hook from the three high energy songs that kind of open things up, and it's less straightforward than those three. It's a lot more jagged and kind of changes the scene up without killing any of the momentum that they built. And then I go back to The Walking Wounded with Carry On. I think that the chorus on that is a lot to re-energize from the quirkiness without taking away from what it did. And then I had to include my favorite, which is Blame It on Bad Luck. I want it in the middle of the set so that I can pull out my phone and put it back in my pocket after I finish recording the song, and you can hear my shitty singing along to it on the bad cell phone videos that you were mentioning earlier. But this way I can kind of put it out, go along with it, and then put the phone back in my pocket and go back to enjoying the show. After that, I have it as Poison My Veins, which is one of the unsung tracks off of Sirens and Condolences. I know it was the first single that they did, but after that first single, it kind of never got any sort of airplay, and isn't something I've seen them perform any of the recent times that I've seen them. So I'm looking forward to hopefully them bringing that back on this one, but it's definitely one that goes on my tops list. Are we still good on that?
Yeah. No, I'm.
All right. I just want you to call me out when it's time for me to be a fucking asshole.
I'm thoroughly enjoying myself at the moment, and yeah, keep doing your thing.
All right. All right. So from there, I have No One Understands off of Shudder. It was by far my favorite track off of Shudder. Shudder is not one of my top Bayside albums, but No One Understands is one of my top Bayside songs. It's real dark. It's melodic. The whole line about being named for a saint but never feeling like you were blessed is just it's one of those ones that hit me in that sad teenage boy, middle school poetry kind of way that makes up most of my identity at this point. And then after that, I threw in Torches of the Damned because it's a bit more heavy and dramatic, and it kind of signals that we're on our way towards the end without being at the end. And then a bit of a deeper cut entirely off of Sirens and Condolences. I next put in Synonym for Acquiesce. Kind of starts to close things down in a more fast and furious way. It's a bit raw and a love letter to the fans that have been there from the beginning. I know that that's kind of the point of the whole tour, but to do that, you do have to have a deep cut off of that first record, and I think Synonym is probably the best way to go about doing that. And then you have to close out the set with Existing in a Crisis and, and Devotion and Desire. You got the high energy anthem, get everybody singing along, and then the definitive closer for any Bayside show has to be Devotion and Desire. It's probably their most well known track. So you get everyone sweaty, everyone screaming, and the band walks off the stage at least for a few minutes for a peekaboo.
Well, that's what's fascinating about a band like Bayside, right? I mean, that Alkaline Trio, I know I lumped them in with Bayside in a negative nature at the beginning of this, but there are some bands that write lyrics that are so earth-shakingly profound that it doesn't matter if the song is fast or slow. Some of these songs are amazing to see live because the entire auditorium erupts into lyrics, and especially some of these earlier records, it became a contest to go to the show and prove that you knew more lyrics and everything. So uh, I think that this is a fantastic start. But let's hear your encore here for night one, real quick.
Yeah, so I think that every encore, and it's silly and it's kind of hackneyed, but I think that it's necessary and it happens as often as it does because it's the best way to go about doing it. Is I think that every encore should really kind of kick off with an acoustic song, and I think that Montauk is the best way to do that. So if you could start it off as an acoustic track, and then after the second verse, they repeat the chorus a second, or yeah, after the second verse, they repeat the chorus a third time. So during that third chorus, it would be great if at that point is when the band came back onto the stage to join Anthony, and it kind of ups the tension a little bit, gets everybody from that kind of high of devotion and desire. That they kind of get back low on the encore while everyone's hiding in the back, and then when they come back out, I think that that's the best way to kind of bring everything back up real quick, is to kind of ease everybody into it. Start off acoustic, end it as a full electric band.
Well, let me
And
let me
then
add this though. As a musician here, I hate to use that word, but they're not just hiding back there, Ed. They're taking mad pisses, and I can really sympathize. Uh, Encores are amazing because you can take mad pisses,
all right,
especially if you're not the beautiful lead singer that has to go out and do that acoustic number. You might even be able to fit a dump in there, but
oh, all
continue.
right. So after the Montauk comes back in full, I think it would be a nice little bit of fan service for them to do something outside of what they said they were going to do, to kind of leave those four albums behind for a second and pull out their cover of "A Long December" by the Counting Crows. I think that the way that the band hit that on the, I don't even know when the tribute came out. I want to say it was probably like 2005, 2006. But there was a full tribute comp of Counting Crows covers, and they were by far the standout track on that. Catch everybody a little bit off guard, and then bring everything way back up by again just playing that fan service. The song itself, it was brilliant. Adam from Counting Crows is obviously one of the greatest and most underrated songwriters of our time, and then to allow Anthony to put his spin on it and the rest of the band to kind of play into it. I think that's just a nice bit of, like I said, just fan service, something a little bit off guard for everybody else. And then the best way to close it out, I think, would be "We'll Be Okay." It's a good full reentry. It's real, it's cathartic, it's hopeful. There's a lot of emotion to it, and that kind of clears out the chaos that you should get throughout the full course of the set.
So now I'm scrolling quickly, cheating, going over to night two to see if you put "Beautiful Girls" by Sean Kingston as the encore, but you didn't.
I did not.
Sean Kingston and his mom are in jail for a lot of fraud. Bless their souls.
Which is real sad because he was on an episode of Yo Gabba Gabba, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
and my kids really enjoyed him,
So
at least for the 6 months that they were into it.
he got so used to having enough money to buy a Lamborghini on a Tuesday that he just started lying about it until it all caught up with him. So I can't really identify with the problem, but I feel for my boy Sean Kingston. So that was a good list. I like that, and for the listener, we kind of put some rules here that the set list had to be like a pretty traditionally long set. So like that's 15 songs. Um, most of the time when people start hearing words like dream set list and stuff, they pick like 20 or 25 songs. And it's just asinine, unachievable. So I'm not really sure what I would eject from these 15. Uh, but I did want to
Sounds like you're
mention
saying it's perfect. Thank you.
it's pretty good. But if you'll humor me here, Duality from The Walking Wounded is a spectacular song that has a good sense of urgency. I Can't Go On from Shudder is a little bit of a slow jam, I guess you could call it. Um, but it's one of my personal favorites. I would put that somewhere on the set list, perhaps in the encore. Not sure. Demons from Shudder um, is has a lot of really good technical shit in it. Now that I'm saying it out loud and remembering the song, there's that weird line about drag queens and stuff that probably didn't age super well.
Nope, not at all.
But mostly, I looked on this list and I went over this with my wife. She kind of helped me go through your set list today, and she's like, "Well, obviously he picked Landing Feet first," and I was like, "Yeah, obviously he did." And then I said, "Wait a second," and I went through the list again. I said he didn't pick Landing Feet first at all from The Walking Wounded, and my wife and I were like, "Asshole, where is it?" So I think that's where you really just dropped the fucking ball, Ed.
So landing feet first wasn't even close to on my radar for the 15 songs that we had. Duality was one that I had on here originally, and then when I thought about how cool it would be to have the Long December cover, it was not on here any longer. But Feet First was never even one that I gave a second thought to. You may be right that it's beyond deserving, but it just never hit for me, so I never really considered it for it.
Oh, man. You used to be able to walk into a party and just start singing that opening line, and the entire party, well, all the all the straight single men would start singing along. But maybe that explains it. No, I thought it was a really good night one, and what it made me realize upon evaluating your list was, wow, if I was going to place myself, uh, if I was going to stamp my own interest in Bayside into their discography, into their eras, I'd actually kind of be like halfway into night one and halfway into night two. I really got into Bayside at Walking Wounded, and I kind of stepped out around Killing Time or Cult. So uh, that makes me excited to see what we have next year for night two. If you want to kind of explain the albums from that and get started on your set list for night two.
Yeah, so night two, it's the same thing. They're going to do the final five albums that they've done, or the most recent five albums that they've done. So it's Killing Time, it's Cult, it's Vacancy, um, it's Interrobang, and then it's There Are Worse Things Than Being Alive. And from here on out, I'm just going to call it Worse Things because that's a lot of words, and I just don't have it in me.
Yeah, this isn't a
Um,
Fallout Boy
but
podcast.
but yeah, so I'd have to say that I'm a little bit different than yours in the way that I went through it. It was definitely kind of a peak and valley for me. So I started off really, like I said, into Sirens and Condolences. I loved the self-titled, and then it kind of Walking Dead was good. Shudder was okay. Killing Time and Cult, I never really felt big on, but I absolutely loved There Are Worse Things Than Being Alive. I think that the red and blue EPs that they did on it, and then converting that into the full length, I was super impressed with how they had come back and the changes that they had made without taking away from anything that they had already accomplished.
I
So I was really into that record, and it kind of that's probably going to be the one. I didn't count the tracks, but I think that's probably the one that's got the most for me in night two, the way that the self title did in night one.
I did get way into Interrobang. Uh, I got to review the record uh, on Punk News at the time, and it was 2019, and nothing strange was ever going to happen in my life. Um, so I dug the shit out of that record. I reviewed it. I gave it 5 stars. I made it one of the albums of the year over at Punk News. And then I had some sort of a top 10 list retrospective pandemic thing and discovered that album all over again. So I forgot that's kind of an oddball. That record really stuck with me. It's also really
Yeah,
good.
no,
And
I,
it's
I
all
agree. So
bangers.
so Interrobang and There Are Worse Things are kind of the upswing again for me. There was just a bit of a lull between Walking Wounded and Vacancy, um, where it wasn't, none of it was bad, just none of it was as much as I was looking for. I think that they kind of, in my eyes, they kind of peaked a little bit with the self-titled, and then had a hard time maintaining that level. So just like Pizza, any Bayside album is a good Bayside album, but there are great Bayside albums, and then there are good ones, and I would say that the good ones kind of run from Walking Wounded through Vacancy.
Well, let's hear night two.
Yeah. So starting off with 666 off of Killing Time. Um, I just think that it's a killer opener. It's definitely the Walking Wounded of this version of it, where it's going to kick things off really strong. It's very explosive right out of the gate, and it was the favorite for me out of Killing Time. And from there I went right into Big Cheese off of Colt. It just keeps everything kind of rolling through. It's got a real crunchy riff to it. Um, and I don't know if I would call it a fan favorite and a deep cut at the same time, but it's the closest to being both of those at once that it can be. And then Strangest Faces, which is probably one of my favorite tracks from the last 2 years. Uh, of all of it, it's so fun. It's got that theatricality to it. It really kind of David S. Pumpkins without being ironically David S. Pumpkins, and so it's fun, but it's also got a lot of depth to it. And I think it brings a lot of like a fresh energy, and brings a good sing along to go with it. From there, I went back to Killing Time for Already Gone. There's a bit of a catharsis to it. You're going to get the whole crowd singing along just like you had, but I think that there's a big shift in it in terms of the melodies. And I think it leads real well into I've Been Dead All Day off of Vacancy, which is just a short and tight, heavy groove to it.
Following.
From there, I went to Mary off of Vacancy, so that's got another lot of hooks to it. It's got a real good, memorable chorus, and it kind of resets the mood for everything. Before going to the first track off of Interrobang that I included, which was Numb. It's a real dark track that kind of balances nicely with the emotionality of it and the aggression to it. I just think that it's got a real sweet duality to it without being duality. And then I think that you got something.
No, I was yelling boom because you said duality. You're doing great.
Oh. uh, so after that, I put in off of Colt. I have Time Has Come. It's got real strong bounce to it. I just think that in terms of a live show, I think that it's a real good bop that recenters everything for it before going into Enemy Lines. Obviously that one's off of Vacancy, and it has a lot of emotional weight to it. If any track on their records was going to be the underdog track for this playlist, I think that that's probably it. Just the one that nobody really expects, but everyone's going to get way into. And then I followed that off with White Flag, because it's just emotionally it's so heavy. It feels very desperate. It's very very big catharsis, and in a live setting, I think it just translates hugely. And then back to There Are Worse Things with the Devils. It's menacing and dramatic, and it's got a real set of atmosphere to it that I think you need at any Bayside show. The atmosphere plays a lot into all of their performances, and I think that the Devils, for the newer tracks, is the one that best captures that. And then kind of go back into faster catcher territory on Not Fair off of Vacancy. There's a lot of urgency to it, and I think that the crowd would be big into that one. And then I went with a bit of a deeper cut as far as I'm concerned. It really kind of shows off their hardcore roots. It's very short, pass aloud. It's Objectivist on Fire. For whatever reason it caught me so off guard with the way that song goes against most of what they do. So the first time I heard Killing Time, it was probably the standout track just because it shocked me. Um, and I think that needs to be played live more often. And then closing out the set proper, I think that I'm so happy I could die is the right way to go. It's got the right sense and the right sentiment. And it's a real climatic track with a lot of urgency, a lot of chaos too. And I think that it's the right way to leave the crowd real sweaty and out of breath.
That's terrific.
And then we have the shipbreak as you so eloquently
Well,
reminded me
shipwreck,
of an
3 of them.
encore.
Anthony can't take it down. He might be able to get a quick piss in it, but he's got to get out there and do another solo acoustic song. I
He
I
does. So
I appreciated Already Gone so much that I would open it with that instead of 666. That's really the only thing that I would have done aside from the songs that I'm going to mention later, but I would swap those two. But again, subjective. Great record though,
yeah, of
Killing
course.
Time. Uh, and just a nice reminder, when you said, "Hey, we're going to talk about Bayside," I said, "Hell yeah, I love that band." And you said, "I do too." Isn't it amazing when you love a band and you dig into their albums and you realize how many of them they've put out?
Yeah, I never. I don't know if it's just that I forgot or didn't pay enough attention, but I was very surprised. There were a lot of when I was going back through all of the albums individually and kind of hearing the tracks again, some of them for the first time in a while. I was real impressed with the things that I had been missing out on by not including them on a more common playlist that I use.
And I think, again, as somebody that plays musical instruments, the instrumentation on these albums, I like to think about when I feel the band kind of speed up or slow down naturally without the click. I think about them all in a room playing them together. And then when I have had the pleasure of seeing them performing live, it's the same thing. It's like, Jesus, these guys are fucking locked in with each other. Like, I bet they all fart in unison in different zip codes when they're like apart from each other because they're just so in tune with one another. Um, because that's something that happens, right? But let's get into your encore.
I thought that the best way to kick it off again is with an acoustic, but with this one, I thought that since Anthony is typically going to come out by himself for the acoustic track, I thought it best to just include something off of his most recent solo album, which I thought was absolutely beautiful last year. So it was called Everyday Royalty was the name of the album, and the track I'll Be Fine was I believe it was the first track off of there, but it was definitely a real emotional kind of roller coaster for it. So you get a bit of intimacy before the band kind of kicks everything back into it. So it's very stripped down, and then you follow that up with Interrobang, which is just so riff heavy and such a wild encore punch. That again, it's gonna put the momentum and the crowd's energy back up to 15 um, before closing it out. And for the closer, it's one of those tracks that I had said that I kind of forgot existed. So transitive property, for whatever reason, it didn't stand out for me until I was re-listening to this, and then I just felt like it was the most perfect closer that they could have outside of Devotion and Desire, or Will Be Okay. So basically, if it wasn't on that second record, which again I'm super fanboy, and I know that it's way based on my end, but outside of that record, I think the Transitive Property is probably their best closing track.
And that's my wife's favorite Bayside song, I believe, or at least in her like top two. So good choice.
Thank you.
She's so excited
I don't
that
care
I'm.
if you call me an asshole, but your wife seems like a
Yeah,
real sweet lady, so I
yeah.
don't want
She's
her being
she's
mad
just
at me.
wonderful. Now she's probably so excited that I'm putting on headphones and doing a podcast in my basement instead of watching Grey's Anatomy with her. All right. So this was a little different for me than the last one because I didn't find any like glaringly obvious. Um, but there were some songs that mean so much to me off of this half of the discography that I just wanted to hear. So some more of Killing Time and some more of Interrobang. Um, The Wrong Way is one of my favorite Bayside songs. Uh, I would have really enjoyed. I think I've watched them perform that song live with the solos and everything, and it was perfect. The New Flesh from Killing Time, same vibes. These songs all kind of hit really hard. Bury Me and Tall from Interrobang were just other rippers from that record until I realized, wow, I think I wouldn't mind if they performed this entire record front to back at some point. You know, maybe I'd cash in to see that. Um, and then, yeah, I did some soul searching, and I have a love hate relationship with the song Heaven off of Interrobang. It's a little cheesy. It's a little overtly poppy compared to the other songs on that record, but I think it makes it stand out so much that I want that to be somewhere in the middle of your list somewhere. But again, we're talking about some songs from two very, very good Bayside records that you've already taken a lot of songs from, so I cannot choose nor beg. But no, that's a great list. So how do we like get it to the band manager or whatever?
You know what? I don't have a plan for that. I'm just gonna hunt them down. They're gonna be in Jersey at the end of the month. So I am just going to stand outside of the Stone Pony and pretend that I'm Springsteen's nephew and do what we can.
You know, you've always had that Springsteen look about you, actually.
It's just the water over here.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's fantastic. Uh, you know, this is a band that hasn't been through Lincoln in a really long time, nor Omaha, I think. I think that they've kind of gone to Kansas City or Denver. So it's been a long time since I've had the pleasure of watching them perform. Uh, but I am excited at the prospect of this list. I believe we can get this list online and put it in a Spotify playlist of sorts.
Yeah, I am sure that we can get some sort of playlist put together to coincide with the release, and I'm sure that we can probably squeeze out a way to get the link in the bio, which I believe is what every podcast I listen to says at some point. So I'm sure that we can do the same thing and also say that the link will be in the bio to the playlist.
Hell yeah. Well, all right. Other than that, it was very nice to catch up with you again, Ed.
Yeah, you as well.
I'm sorry I took a big diarrhea dump on your emails while you were trying to get into that concert. Uh, uh, but yeah, for everybody else that has comments, I think our editor Jeff just moved to Minnesota. As soon as I have a residential address that I can put on my socials, so you guys can go over to his house and knock on his door, introduce yourself to him. I'm sure he'd be really excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make
Otherwise,
sure that we put the his new address in the bio as well.
exactly. There you go. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Cool.
Awesome.